Hi there, my name is Trish. I know you're itching to see this tutorial. I like to keep you guys in suspense. You've noticed that, right? I'm sorry. So today, before we jump into the tutorial, I want to show you guys just a few of the flyers that I've been getting back from from the tutorials I've been doing earlier. So I'm just going to run through a few, and I want to say that you guys are doing a great job. So keep up the good work, Ollie. Keep up the good work, Jack, and also Dinola. I know that other people have been sending me stuff. So as I get them, I will show them. So without further ado, let's jump right into this tutorial. So guys, just a quick reminder before we jump into the tutorial, please don't forget our live session tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the first thing that we always do is to create the template, and that helps you to know the size that I'm working with. So we want to go to File, we're going to click on New, and we want to keep our width and height at 10. I always like to keep my resolution at 300 so we have the highest quality. I'm going to change the background to white, and notice my dimensions are in inches. We're going to click create. First thing that we're going to do, as always, is to bring in the background, and today's background is very simple. So we're going to drag in two elements to create our background. So I'm going to pull this image in and just release, and that shows up. We are going to this time stretch it. I'm not going to rescale. So notice I just held the top with my shift down and then I stretched it. We want to go to image adjustment and we want to turn this to black and white. And I'm going to just click OK. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to adjustment brightness, and I want to increase the brightness of this just a little. I'm going to click OK. And then we're going to go back to our folder. We're going to drag in this other image, and we're going to set it right there in the corner like that. I'm going to double click to deselect. With that layer selected, we want to change the blend mode to multiply. I'm going to take the opacity down so we can still see our glow. So with this set for us, we want to now go ahead and bring in our subject. So I'm going to go to my folder. We're going to click on our subject and we're going to drag and drop him inside. So I'm going to double click. So to deselect, the easiest way to take out the background is to go to your quick select tool, and then you want to make sure your layer is selected. You want to click on select subject. Now Photoshop is going to take off the background for you. I've done this multiple times, so you should know how to do it now. If you don't, I have previous tutorials on how to take the background, so you can check those in the description below. So now that we have our subject selected, if I zoom in, you notice that it's a very good selection. So I really don't have to do any extra cleaning. So I am going to click on my layer mask icon, which is below the layers panel, and it's going to take off the background for me. I'm going to click on my move tool and I'm going to set my subject right there. I'm going to zoom out a little so we can see the entire thing. And if you want your canvas to fill your working space, all you need to do is click on your magnifying glass and click on fit to screen. So your canvas fits exactly within the working surface. So now that we have this, we want to go ahead and bring in the theme. And as I always say, when you're creating a flyer, it's like you're telling a story. So the theme is what needs to stand out, and then you begin to add everything else. So I'm going to select my text tool, and I want to make sure my font, I'm going to use impact, and I'm going to click within my canvas, and I'm going to type the word bold. If you want to know the scale, the size, so basically I'm using 230 in terms of the size, and its impact, and I have it on regular in terms of the style. So we want to go ahead and add some layer style effect to our text. So I'm going to create a duplicate, and I'm going to have two texts. So I'm going to name this Behold Red, and I'm going to name this Behold Blue, Behold Black. So the first one, we're going to double click, and we're going to add a bevel, and we are going to add a stroke and inner shadow. And we also want to go ahead and add a drop shadow. So we have something of this sort. And I want you to take note of the different style effects that I use. So for my bevel emboss, I have it on pillow emboss smooth. Depth is at 1, size is at 9, and the direction is up. And now the contour gloss is cone. I have my angle at 7. And then when you come down to the highlight mode, I have multiply, shadow multiply, and they are both at 50% opacity, and the color is white. And the stroke, I just use 4 pixels, and my position is outside. You can do inside. You get a different effect, but I want to keep it on outside, and my color is white. For your inner shadow, I chose a red, and my blend mode is normal. My opacity is around 72, angle 7. Distance is at 0. My choke is at 28. My size is at 16. And notice that my contour this time is called ring. And the last one is the shadow. So with the shadow, you can do whatever effect you want, but you can see that my opacity is not at 100, but it's at 77. My angle is at 7. My distance, spread, and size, you can see it right here, very minimal. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to create a duplicate, and I'm going to name this black. I'm going to turn off the black, and the red one, I want to convert this into a smart object. So I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to choose convert to smart object. I'm going to take my polygon lasso tool, and I'm going to slice my text diagonal. So I'm going to do the top. And with my text selected, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to create a copy. I'm going to turn off the original. I'm going to go back to my other text. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change the color. I'm going to highlight and make that black. And what I'm going to do, just like I did with the other text, I'm going to pull that on top. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another diagonal cut right alongside the red cut, just like that. And I'm going to slice the bottom. So you want to make sure you're on the right layer. I'm going to move this up so it lines up with the top one. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to make a copy, and I'm going to turn off the original. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to click on my bottom slice, and I'm just going to slide it away from the top one just a little. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slice it the opposite direction, and I'm going to move this down just a little. We have this effect. I'm going to take down the opacity of the black, so it almost acts as though it's bleeding through, so you can see a bit of the background. So we are basically set with our main text. So I'm going to go ahead and begin to add the different texts that we want to include in this. So I'm going to select my text. I'm just going to go ahead and begin to type. And then I'm going to scale this down. And we're going to set it right there. So now that we have this, I can add a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to double click on my text and I'm going to add a drop shadow. I'm going to increase opacity a little so we can see it. I'm going to take the spread out a little, the distance. So we have something like this. I'm going to highlight my text and I'm going to make that white, and I'm going to go ahead and play with the drop shadow. So I'm going to increase my drop shadow so we can see the text doing something like this. So you can see that my opacity is at 79, distance is at 13, spread and size are around 35 to 39. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead to add the different text. And just so you know, this font is Jill Sen. And I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this. And I'm going to bring that down. And I'm going to go ahead. And then I'm going to rescale this. I'm going to set it right there. And notice I'm using the same font. I'm going to scale it down just a little. I'm going to set it right there. And then I'm going to double click. We want to decrease the spread of our shadow so it's not too much. And then I'm going to click OK. I want to change the font color. We're going to go for like a bluish color. We're going to go for a more brighter. So I'm going to make another duplicate of this text. I'm going to pull that down and I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to move that and set it somewhere here. I'm going to double click to take off the shadow. And then I'm going to scale this down just a little. With my text tool, I want to change the color. I want to make this red. I'm going to make the connect black. So with my text selected, I'm going to go to property and I want to increase the distance between my text just a little. And I'm going to move it and set it right there, like that. So we're going to go ahead and add the time and date. So I'm going to go and choose my text and I'm going to type in 27th. So I'm going to select and rescale just like that. I'm going to highlight. So we're going to change it to geometry 415. I'm going to go to my property and we're going to close the gap just like that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight and I want to make this red. And I'm going to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to double click. So my drop shadow is a bit sharper and it's not too blare. We have something like this. I'm going to highlight and make it something like that to match the red that I have. So I'm going to rotate just a little, just to give it a bit of a twist. I'm going to scale it down just so. And I'm going to make a duplicate of this. And we're going to change this to the month. We're going to make that white. And we're going to type in September. I'm going to click on my move. And we are going to rescale this. And I'm going to change the font style of this to B-Buzz. And I'm doing the bold. I'm going to set it right there and scale it just a little. Just like that. We're going to go to the property and we want to space it out just so. So we are very close, guys. So the next thing that I want to do, I'm actually going to select both and we're going to scale it down just a little. We're going to move it and set it somewhere here. And then I'm going to go ahead with my text. I'm going to type in the time of the event. I'm going to highlight and we want to change it to B-Buzz. And this is the B-Buzz font. I'm going to rescale. I'm just eyeballing it, just like that. And I want to change this font to black. And then we want to make a duplicate. And we're going to move it right there, just like that. So if I zoom out, you see that everything makes sense. Everything lines up. And that is what you want to do. You don't want your information to be all over the place. We want to go ahead and then just add where the meeting is going to be held. And we know that the meeting is going to be done online. So I'm going to zoom in and we are going to just create a red box. And we're going to make that live. I'm going to double click and change the color to a bit more of a red. I'm going to create a new layer and then I'm going to pick my paint bucket. I'm going to fill that in, Control D to deselect. I'm going to pick my text tool with my foreground as white. I'm going to type in live. I'm going to highlight and so what I did was I changed the font to the Jill Sans MT and it's on regular. So I'm going to select and I'm going to set it in right here. And I'm going to go to my property and then I want to space it out just a little. So we have something like this. I'm going to move it to center it. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go ahead, select both, scale it down just a little. I'm going to go ahead and select my time and move it up like that. And I'm going to change it to B-Buzz. And I'm going to highlight and make it all black. But I want to change the style of my zoom number. So I'm going to go for the B-Buzz, but the thin version of the B-Buzz, which is the line. I'm going to take it to box so it reads better. And I'm going to set it right there, just like that. Now, the last thing that I want to bring in, I'm going to zoom in. So guys, so as you can see, I went ahead to bring in my Zoom logo and my church logo as well. I'm going to zoom in. This looks good so far. I'm going to rescale my subject. I'm going to set him right there. I'm going to double click and then I'm going to use my eraser tool. You want to make sure that you are on the image itself, not the layer max. And we are going to erase, but I'm going to increase my brush head a little. And you want to keep your hardness at 0. You also want to make sure that you have your caps lock off so that you can see your eraser head. And as you can see, I'm just gradually erasing so that we only see the top of the subject. I want to go ahead and brighten my subject a little. So we're going to double click and we are going to go to image adjustment and brightness, contrast, and I'm going to increase that a little so that our subject comes to life. I'm going to zoom in and I actually want to move the time. I'm going to set it right here. I'm going to set that right there. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color. You can end your flyer here, and you can even take it a notch up like I always do. You can select everything, and then you can group it, create one file, control. So you can make one layer by pressing Shift Control Alt E, and you can go to your camera raw, and then you can increase the vibrance a little. So guys, this is what I posted on the community page. But beyond this, if you want to take this a step further, I want to show you what to do. So we're going to turn this off and we're going to go back to our original. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a gradient effect. And I'm going to change this. Notice that my gradient is from solid to transparent. I'm going to double click and I'm going to change the color to a blue. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK and OK. And I'm going to take this all the way down. So it's beneath our text, our subject, and everything. So I'm going to take it down. So we have something like this. And I'm going to change this font to white. And I'm going to go ahead and change my Me10 font as well. We're going to keep it as white. From here, what you want to do is that you want to go back to your folder and we want to drag in this element, okay? So once we drag in this element, we want to scale it, and I'm going to change the blend mode to screen, and notice that the screen will hide the black. So you only begin to see just the source of light. And what I'm going to do is that I want to take this, I'm going to take my eraser tool and I'm going to convert to smart object, and I want to erase the light effect a little bit of my font. So the last thing we want to do, we want to make sure that this light source is beneath. I like this effect. You realize that it transforms your design immediately. We want to go ahead and create another duplicate. And I'm going to take that and set that behind our subject. So I'm going to take that all the way down and set it beneath. So it's beneath our subject. So we have something of this sort. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to click on my text and then I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my ellipse marquee tool. I'm going to draw an ellipse like that. And I'm going to change the color to white. And I'm going to fill that in. So with my ellipse selected, I'm going to rotate it just a little, like so. And I'm going to reduce the opacity. I'm going to take it down, something like this. I'm going to double click to deselect. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and also create another duplicate of the same thing. I'm going to turn this one off. So the next thing that you want to do, you want to click on your behold text, the one in red, hold down your control, select that. You want to erase all the areas that are outside the text. So we're going to go to select inverse. And now with our eraser tool, we're going to go ahead and erase everything that is outside. And I'm going to press Ctrl D with my eraser tool. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this so we get a gradual effect on our text. At the same time, it's subtle. And we can go ahead and turn on the other one. We can move that down just like that and even rotate it. So we can do something like this, can double click, and we can do the exact same thing. I'm going to hold down my control, make a selection, and we're going to click on select inverse, and I'm going to pick my eraser tool, and I'm going to erase all the areas around that text. So the last thing I want to show you that you can do to even take your flyer a notch up is to add a little bit of a design on the bottom. So with our gradient layer selected, we're going to add a new layer, and we are going to create an ellipse on the bottom. I'm just going to draw a big ellipse like that, and we're going to fill that in with black, and I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect. I'm going to move this, and I'm going to rotate some, and then I'm going to take the fill down just like so. I'm going to decrease the opacity even further, and we are going to go ahead, double click, and add a shadow. And I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this, and I'm going to set that right here. I'm going to double click to deselect. I'm going to click on the bottom one, and I'm going to move that out a little. And we want to add one more duplicate, and then we're going to move that and set that right here. So for the middle one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down my control, select it, and then I'm going to click on my very first ellipse, and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to press Ctrl D to deselect. And what I'm going to do to the middle one, I'm going to double click, and I'm going to take out the drop shadow and click OK. So for the first one, we're going to double click, and we're going to reduce the drop shadow. We're going to reduce the scale, and we are going to take down the fill. So we have something like this. I'm going to reduce the opacity. I'm going to take up the fill just a little. And now the last thing we want to do is get rid of the lines around. So we are going to double click and convert this to Smart Object. And then with my eraser, I'm going to go ahead and erase around this area to get rid of that. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing and convert to Smart Object. I'm going to click on my eraser tool, convert, and we are going to erase. This is it, guys. I wanted to give you two options, one which was more simpler and one which was a little bit more complicated. So let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite. And please don't forget to like, comment, and also subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more future uploads if you are a newbie to my channel. So until next time, guys, please be safe and take care of yourselves. Bye.